Okay, AutoNation just out with quarterly numbers, 33 cents a share. X items, that's above expectations of 30 cents. Revenue fell slightly short of estimates. The stock, though, down about 40% year to date. In a First on CNBC interview, we're joined by Mike Jackson, AutoNation Chairman and CEO. Mike, it's good to see you.
Joe, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good that you were able to beat expectations. I'm just trying to figure out if I were trying to grow earnings at your company right now. I don't know what you plan to do in this type of environment. I'm looking at the first call estimates, Mike, and a couple of years ago, AutoNation was earning $1.48. You earned $1.54. This year, it's going to be $1.22, and even next year, the analysts are hoping for $1.35. It's flat. How do you grow the business? How do you grow earnings per share in this environment?
Well, Joe, I look at the glass a little bit differently. This was one of the more memorable quarters of my career. Here we are dealing with a housing depression, a credit crisis, and in the middle of the quarter, gasoline explodes to $4 a gallon, absolutely shocking the consumer and sending a stampede to fuel efficiency. And despite all that, we as a company are solidly in the black, and EPS is only off 8%. So actually, I'm quite satisfied with that type of performance in this type of environment. Obviously, we're dealing with a cyclical downturn in new vehicle sales, with the sales for the industry probably falling to low 14 million units this year. And so to come out of it stronger, still solidly in the black is our goal, but to really grow, we're going to have to wait till the cycle turns.
Yeah, a lot of industries looking at the same. I mean, everyone we talk to, basically, Mike. We're talking to Andrew Liveris at Dow. He's waiting for things to set out. You look at Mullally, and you see what Ford's doing today, Mike. They're talking about all the things that I think you've been kind of a proponent of, and that is the migration to the Euro style, those little cars they drive over in Europe. Those are coming, but the gas price did it for us. We didn't need the gas tax. It looks like the migration is happening, and maybe consumers here are ready for those cars, Mike?
Yes, there's no question that this is a structural change in our industry that ultimately had to happen at this moment when the economy was so weak. Is a shock, and it would have been better to have an energy policy to get us there. But I did speak to Alan this morning and congratulated him for the speed with which he and his company is embracing this structural change. You know, the old Detroit would have taken ages to come to terms with this. So from one day to the next, literally to be slashing production, shifting over factories from trucks to cars, and ramping up the import of these outstanding world-class fuel-efficient vehicles from Europe is amazing to watch. Mike? And why the short term is going to be very, very tough. In the long term, I'm actually feeling better.
Mike, you don't still think that they should raise taxes on gasoline, do you?
No.
We're there. You're done with that idea.
No, I'm not done with that idea. Let's be clear here. The price of petroleum needs to be knocked down. Between a combination of conservation and more domestic production, the price of petroleum can be knocked down, and that'd be great for the economy. If that's successful, then you're going to need to do something on the tax side, like Europe has done, to keep the price of gasoline in this range. Because if the price of gasoline goes back down, I got news for you. All these things that we're doing now, the consumer's going to go back to their old ways.
And let me ask you, what if that does happen? Is Detroit nimble enough to go back and provide cars that Americans want? Because, so far,
Michelle,
I look at all of this stuff and I think, are they doing the very wrong thing at the wrong moment? I mean, the minute Detroit says, we're going to make teeny cars, that almost says to me, you know what, there's got to be a peak in gasoline prices.
Well, Michelle, you're absolutely right. And we cannot be whipsawed back and forth in our industry with the consumer preference shifting with the price of gasoline. Listen, you tell me the price of gasoline, and I'll tell you the type of vehicles that consumers are going to buy. It is literally that simple. But with the lead time and the fixed cost structure, we can't be whipsawed back and forth. So if we are successful in knocking down the price of petroleum, and I think in the near term we need some relief on the price of gasoline, long term then you're going to have to bring in taxation to keep the behavior that's needed for the long term.
All right. As a company, what do you need to do some of the same things that the automakers are doing? Mike, do you have to change?
Oh, we are definitely changing. In this environment, we have a continuing cost initiative of $100 million in annualized savings, and that includes a headcount reduction of 1,300 people.
Is this new? Is this new, Mike? Is this new, Mike? What you're talking about now? You're going to talk about this on the conference call because we'll pay a lot more attention. Are you outlining these moves now? Do we know about this?
We said that we would have a cost initiative this year because we knew we were facing a difficult environment. We never put a number on it till today. Today we are putting a number on it. It's $100 million in savings annualized. We've already realized $25 million in the first half of the year. We'll get another $50 million in the second half of the year and have another $25 million ready to go at the beginning of 2009.
And what does that mean, Mike? Does that mean getting rid of some dealerships? Is that lowering spending on what? Advertising? What?
That $100 million is primarily in changing our advertising spend and changing our compensation structure, which is the elimination of 1,300 positions at the store level. We are also going to continue to refine our portfolio as we have. And, when I arrived at AutoNation, it was primarily a domestic company with over 60% of the revenue on the domestic side. And in the near-term future, we'll probably have shifted that to around 20% of our revenue.
Mike, I got a crazy question. My car is 10 years old, and I need a new one. And up until a week ago, I never would have thought of this, but I keep reading all these articles. I'm thinking about buying an SUV. Used one, a new one, I'm not so sure.
That is happening on our showroom floors right now.
What is?
That people have all of a sudden realized that the price change in SUVs is far larger than the amount of gasoline at stake. So all of a sudden, SUVs that were sales-proof 6 weeks ago, now the pricing has adjusted, are moving again. So all those vehicles aren't going to
because they're so much cheaper.
Because they're so much cheaper. And
give me an example. So a Hummer 6 weeks ago and a Hummer now, or a Hummer 6 months ago and a Hummer now.
Yeah, it was probably a 20-25% price adjustment. That's very significant. And forward-looking, the production of SUVs and pickup trucks is being slashed dramatically. So there's a window of opportunity right now.
Right, the glut is now, because the glut is going to go away.
The glut is now,
you could put you could put your money where your mouth is and keep those prices just as high as they used to be and not sell any of them if you really don't want anyone to buy any more of those.
Can you carry overhead that long?
Joe, I am
You're in business.
In the business of selling cars and trucks. And Michelle, I will send you an email later.
No friends of Mike program here that gets people in trouble.
Yeah, we do a lot of business. We do a lot of business with our CEO guest. Mazzillo comes to mind. No, we did. That's a joke. Let me ask you one other thing. You saw Boone on Boone Pickens.
Yes.
And you've seen the ads that are running. Does that plan make sense to you?
First, I have to congratulate Boone for identifying the issue. In this Tower of Babel around energy, so often people don't get to what is exactly the problem. And he is 1,000% correct in calling out that America exporting $700 billion a year of capital is not sustainable, and that is the issue that has to be most urgently addressed. I'm not an expert on wind, but it sounds great. When he talks about compressed natural gas cars, there's an issue there. These are basically, whether you talk about natural gas or electric, are basically commuter cars. You give up a lot of space and put in a lot of weight and cost to contain the fuel, and the range of the vehicle is dramatically reduced. And this is an issue with people. People really haven't come to terms with a vehicle that has a single purpose. They want their vehicle to use it to go back and forth to work, but then use it for other activities on the weekend. Mm-hmm. So that's the limiting factor in compressed natural gas vehicles.
You're the guy,
it's $3,000 to $4,000 a vehicle, and you lose the trunk, and you lose half the range.
Yeah, you're a good guy. You sell these things. You're a good guy to talk about the actual practicality of that.
Yeah, people forget whenever they talk about this kind of stuff that in our business, somebody still has to write a check for
a car.
And if nobody writes a check for it, I don't care how good your idea is. If it doesn't win over the consumer, it's not going to make a difference.
Right.
Okay.
Great, Mike. Thanks so much. Great to see you today.
This morning.
All right. See you later.